This week on the Old School RuneScape Update, Leagues 5 Raging Echoes gets off to a roaring start, setting player records. We discuss our Week 1 experiences, the plan so far, relics we've worked for and agonized over, regions, and how we're playing differently this time. This is the Old School RuneScape Update, episode 56, recorded Saturday, November 30th, 2024. The Traveling Taskman. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. It's that wonderful time of year. Yeah, that's Christmas time, right, Sirion?
Oh.
I mean, I
love Christmas.
Yeah, American Thanksgiving just happened. Black Friday just happened.
My
also this week, Leagues 5 Raging Echoes here.
Now we're talking.
The thing that has given many old school RuneScape player insomnia this past week, and maybe even me for 15 to 20 minutes one night, because I was agonizing over one specific tier of relic before the event began, and I'm still here sitting today agonizing over that tier. But we'll get into all of that in just a couple moments, of course. But if you guys are joining us here for the first time, welcome. We do have full show notes available for what use that'll be this week, update.show/OS, as well as a friends chat in-game, which you can find at BitsBytes and a Discord over at update.show/Discord. So we're just going to get into it here this week and go over week 1. And, I'm not American. You're not American. But
nope.
it's still a momentous week, no matter which way you slice the turkey.
Yep.
So, wow. Okay. So Leagues 5 Raging Echoes. How did we start off on day 1?
Jarek's not so great, and then all of a sudden very great, because they broke another all-time RuneScape player record.
Yeah, and it's always, I'm always of two minds about this in terms of just looking at things like server performance and whatnot, when in reality, you could kind of maybe anticipate that this might be an issue, but at the other end of that stick, you can't necessarily just, account for high demand before it arrives and have your servers be swamped for it. So I feel like they did okay in the end, and there's really not too much to write home about there. Am I right in that read?
It's one of these things that like economics, right? Like,
yeah,
you can't just have an entire garage full with servers sitting around for that one peak every year. Like, it just doesn't make economic sense. However, there is such a thing as surge demand and surge data centers. So overall, I think it's fine. They did resolve it pretty quickly, and other than that, I just honestly, I don't remember much of last year and how many bugs there were as part of day 1 leagues. I kind of missed that. But even now, I didn't really run in any of the bugs, and once I was out of work a few years after league start and ready to, dive in, the problems had been resolved. I didn't really run into any problems. Like, all of the tasks that I expected to work worked. So I don't know. It seems
we're talking
fine.
about a peak of 216,000 players, the highest ever for old school, which is an interesting testament, because to me it's like, this is obviously, a time limit event, runs for 8 weeks, happens what's looking like to be now once a year, and it draws in this amount of people. And is it, I guess, just the fact that you can have for 8 weeks a controlled power fantasy and do things that you couldn't normally do? Is that what's drawing people in, or is it the competitive aspect, or?
Hard to say for me. I honestly, I've been completely addicted to League. So for the past few days, there's really, I don't know, there's really something about it that is different and unique, especially in the early game when you just really work through those tasks. Absolutely love it. And I honestly couldn't tell you why or what or how or um, but there's something about it that's so really enjoyable, and I think that's shared by a lot of people. It's also just fresh, right? The fact that you have all of these relics that, in some cases, change the game in really unique and interesting ways. It just completely, all of your normal intuitions about the game are completely out of the window, which makes, I think, for everybody who has played this game a lot and maybe has even played multiple counts, being able to play it in a way where um, things don't line up in the exact same way as previously
Right.
because
Well, yeah, and I mean, you even compare that with Trailblazer Reloaded. It's entirely different in that way.
yeah, which I love. And my fear was that we were going to just see reruns of previous leagues, and that actually doesn't seem to be the case, right? We're really getting quite a different set of relics this time. The masteries really change things. The um, the echo bosses really change things. I truly feel that despite the fact that I can apply a lot of the past lessons about how to best do leagues and how to best get points early on, I still feel that I make different choices because the relics are so different.
Yeah.
And I'm exploring completely different content with both different regions and different combat styles and all of that. And if they keep investing the same amount of time in each upcoming leagues to change it up and add new things and swap things out, I was previously against the whole once a year idea, but I'm coming around to it. Like, please, if this is the amount of stuff we get every year, please do it. And as long as they keep seeing peaks of like 250,000 players, they're gonna keep investing in this because it just makes sense.
Yeah, and it's
Uh,
also, I think, a good thing to do from the dev angle of it, because keep in mind, the internal calendar, what they're doing with this is that they just came off a game jam, right? So what this does is that aside from, the league hot fixes and the fixes that need to go into the league in the next week or two, what this does is it lets them get into a position where before the Christmas break, they can get January's updates ready to go.
yep.
Because keep in mind that the studio pretty much goes to sleep for 2.5 weeks around Christmas time from either, mandated days off or just people taking holidays at that time. And one issue that RS3 had seen for the last number of years, actually, is that coming into January, there was always a drought of content because they weren't able to do that
Hmm.
prep work in December going into January with that. So that's another, I think, good thing about it, just even from the dev angle of it, is that it puts the new year on a good starting foot. But, speaking of
And
start.
and what we see as well is the same as what happened with fresh new starts in RS3 is that so many players are revisiting the early content. There's a really good reason to polish it up, and you saw that with the fact that they did a bunch of cleanup on the farming code.
Yeah,
Leagues is a
that was
really good,
funny.
yeah.
We
No, like, and I think Leagues is a really good, like, building in all of these relics is a really good opportunity to go back and update some of the code, which in turn has downstream propagation effects, which we don't really notice as
in
players.
English for
But
the non-dev listeners, please.
I mean, every change you made to code is has a cost associated with it.
Yeah.
The more spaghetti code, if you want to call it that, we call it technical debt. You have, the slower that gets, and this is a really good opportunity to just pay of some of that technical debt and spend a little bit more time, and hopefully that way really get more change. Like, imagine that they can now fix bugs for farming much. much easier.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
good.
we would all want that, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. So, um, as I was saying, let's talk about early days and how all of this went, because I think an interesting thing that came up with this is what our early path experiences looked like for this. And what was interesting for me this time is that I actually went into this one with a bit of a plan. So what I
hmm
wound up doing for this one, obviously I had the region plan we talked about last week. We'll talk about Relics and how that's gone after, but in general, what I set out to do this time was effectively look at the core areas of Missile and starting out, and then just basically make a big loop. So start in Lumbridge, move across the swamp to Draenor, and then up to Barbarian Village and Edgeville, and then Varrock, and then back down, and keep doing that loop until the tasks become too difficult, so to speak. And then that took me to Karamja after that, and so on and so forth. And the interesting bit about that, and I was actually quite pleased when it happened, is I got the tier 3 relic and my first region unlock at the exact same time, which I wasn't
yeah, you told me
anticipating
about that.
that happening. But
No,
wow, okay.
yeah.
So it's
As
gone
much,
okay so far.
I didn't really have a task plan, and honestly, that's the way I like to play. So meh.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. Following me after this initial task plan that started to break down is that I'm starting to feel like I need to sit down and do that exact same thing and figure that out for Desert and then eventually Kandarin when I pick that, because in my ideal world, I would have a map of the RuneScape coordinates of where each task is complete, and then I would have a point total assigned to those tasks, and then I would be able to, in effect, programmatically either min-max the points or min-max the
no,
tasks.
no, you can't min-max that. You and I both know that this is an MP complete problem.
I know. I wish. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it, and I couldn't really come up with a way I would min max that. So you're right on that. Yeah, NP complete problems. Do you want to talk about that, or should we leave that?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, fair enough. But I am on the precipice of unlocking region number 2. I think I'm around a dozen tasks or so away, so that'll be later today. Where are you at?
I the fact you said you had a plan. I did not have a plan for tasks. I did have a plan for relics and regions and all of that. As much as I said I'm not gonna have a plan, I'm gonna look at the task and I'm gonna see where my, feelings and my preferences take me. And I just couldn't help myself, and I went in with a plan. I think that's the league's fever just coming in, right? It's you come in, you start, and you get all of these teasers, and you just have to start putting it together. I think if you're most RuneScape players, at least like ones that really enjoy doing like the Iron Man and their own sort of thing and not just follow guides, it's exactly up their street. So no, I'm doing really well. I just finished my third mastery, combat mastery, by killing Scurious.
Interesting, because and that's another thing that's different about me than you this time, is that I haven't really done any combat aside, from the odd tasks around the way, and that's led me to have around level 50 strength and 50 attack, and a tiny teeny bit of magic and ranged XP along the way.
Yeah, I got to the point where it just made sense. Like I needed a few Slayer levels and all of that. So I'm getting to the point where I need to start doing combat. And at that point, it also makes sense to start doing combat more efficiently. So that's why I'm starting to sort of switch to getting the combat masteries, which right now I have the third first three melee ones. So, all of my attacks are one tick faster, basically. Unless I have a really slow weapon, which is even 2 ticks faster. If I can find a 6-tick weapon for myself, I think maybe
Does that
Colossal
even
Sword.
exist? That's a good question. And I also want to say on this
the Colossal Sword is a 6-tick weapon. So I might unlock this because that actually speeds up by 2 ticks, so it makes it as fast as my Dragon Long. So
good God.
yes,
halberds
yes.
and two-handeds are 7 ticks.
There you go. That will also speed up by about 2 ticks. So that I have right now. Of course, I want to get tier 5 for that double attack speed. That's going to be absolutely ridiculous. But
I remember back in my day, the rune two-handed sword was the meta in RuneScape Classic, and then when RuneScape 2 came out, we all moved to rune scimitars because attack speed.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I had a dragon scimitar. It would be amazing to have.
I'm going to have a dragon scimitar eventually.
Yeah. No, like pretty quick actually, because you auto complete Monkey Madness too, so you just glider over and get yourself buy one for 100k. So.
Yeah. So I was going to say, and that was another conscious decision I made, was to skip the combat training until I unlock the double combat XP.
That's fair enough. That's absolutely fair enough. That's tier 3. I didn't really do much. I only just realized that the XP modifier from 8 to 12 was tier 5 and not tier 4. So I did a bunch of training thinking I was already at the times 12 modifier, and I wasn't. That was really not very smart of me. Mistakes have been made. But other than that, honestly, I've been having fun. I've picked Golden God. The decision was actually not that hard.
Okay.
And the reason why is it's just a fun option. I had like 50 magic, 20 magic when I got the relic. You unlock High Elk right away. So I started High Elking, and like within a minute I was like 50, 60 magic, and at this point I am 93 magic, and I'm it's my highest skill because I'm not doing anything for it. I have 300 mil just sitting around, and I could have more, but I just stopped because like this is probably going to be enough for a while. It's the fun option, and there's always this discussion. If I wanted to get the max DPS, right? If I wanted to really PVM and completely min max, I should be getting the Grimoire for piety.
But the Grimoire is not at that tier.
No, that's tier 7, right?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not talking about tier 7.
How does that factor in? How do we get from tier 4 to 7?
I was thinking of having the Grimoire, right? Because it's a really good thing to have.
You don't
piety.
have Kandarin, so you would like piety.
I would like piety. Lunas is nice. I already have Ancients and Arceus, so it's limited value. But hey, it's nice. And then I realized it's really just a stand bump for me. That's all it is. If I take Overgrown or Pocket Kingdom, that actually opens up new gameplay and actually allows me to have fun with it. So I'm actually leaning towards Overgrown, because the idea that farming XP just starts rolling in is kind of hilarious. The idea with Pocket Kingdom that the herbs just start rolling in, completely hilarious, right? So that's kind of, I'm not really optimizing for PVM or XP. I'm really optimizing for what's the craziest shit I can think of to do in the game. And that is something I really, really can't do in the main game.
Yeah, that's fair. And, I've been in a holding point, probably for the last 2 hours and ish of my gameplay around that tier 4 relic choice, because I wrote all this down when we were starting out last weekend in the Theorycraft episode, and it's got to a point here where I can choose Golden God. And as you know, that makes things like prayer, crafting, construction, and a number of other skills just trivial, right? But
it makes it not just trivial. I have multiple times actually burst out laughing at how absolutely ridiculous it is. Like only in leagues can you do stupid shit like this, and that's, you know, it's the same with dodgy deals. Right? I didn't take
yeah,
dodgy deals, but being
right.
able to go to like the ham and just you click,
Yeah.
and you just steal out the entire hideout.
And
That's just a fun moment and a very memorable moment.
yeah, and you know,
And especially for you, because I think you don't intend to play until the very end, until a certain point threshold. I think it makes a lot of sense to just pick the things that creates memorable moments that you can't do elsewhere.
yeah,
and lean into the private server.
I went power miner because I really dislike old school mining and smithing. I went dodgy deals because I had good luck with thieving last time, and I really don't want to be, click, 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 repeated thieving, and I don't have Varlamore for that, so that one made sense. But the issue is that, well, if I, at tier 4 go reloaded and choose, say, friendly forager as an example, then that fixes herblore. Or I could do something even more, silly and pick the animal one at tier 1 instead as an example, or even the wood cutting one at tier 1, because believe it or not, I either need to smith my own hatchet or get one from a klute, because I don't have a hatchet shop in my regions, unlike because I don't have Corinth this time. So,
yeah.
But see, this is the thing, is that I'm agonizing over this decision because I don't know when I'm getting tier 7. I don't know what the point trajectory to that looks like right now for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
I mean, my question to you is like, you're saying like, oh, friendly forager would solve herblore. Why do you need herblore solved?
that's a good question. Perhaps there's a part of me that just wants to get it really high up, maybe get it to 99, maybe get Cerato and Bruise. Because I know in reality, I will be perfectly fine if I can get, to 68 or whatever it is for super anti-fire and the ranging potion, and
which I
can get to 70, 72 for the ranging potion, relatively simply, I guess.
But just mostly just lamps will get you most of the way there.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, is that those lamps come from achievement diary tasks. You know my stance on those.
Yeah, I know how you feel about it.
And then I'll be like, well, if I did them in leagues, why don't I do them in the main game? And it's just not a fun gameplay experience for me on that. So, I don't like, in effect, being governed by these task lists unless I can do it in a way that is, going to be the most efficient way possible, which I know sounds like a bit of a contradiction, but it is where I'm at, 4 days in here, and I feel like the next step after unlocking the next region is to really double down on the combat stuff and get that going, because like you mentioned, or I don't know if this was pre-show or whether it was mentioned in relation to the desert quest, I'm sitting at level 4 ranged right now, give or take, and
oh yes,
and you came up with a good way of getting that into the 50s. So
yeah, this relies on you getting to tier 5 first, because this is with the 12 times XP modifier and double combat XP.
Right.
But I was like basically sitting at 3 ranged. I had put like one of the books of knowledge in there that I got from one of the what's the word? One of the random events, one of the genies. But I put in the lamp, the combat reward from Shadow of the Storm, into the into ranged, and it immediately boosted me to 58
Right,
range.
and that's like
Which is like on par with my other skills that I've
and
actually spent time training.
and that's like me doing Vampire Slayer. Brought my attack up to level 48.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
um, the more and more I look at this, and this is, I think, an interesting discussion to have. And we'll come back to this, but I think this is, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that one of the two ways you can go about this is you can either, figure out the best way to do all the tasks, or you can figure out how far you can push the envelope when it comes to doing things like PVM and whatnot. But
yeah,
I want to ask you with this, are there any other relics that you chose or didn't choose that you were thinking maybe you should have at this point?
Oh, that's an interesting question you ask. I don't regret anything, I think. I'm sad I'm missing out on Friendly Forager a little bit. I am sad I don't have Power Miner. I would like more choices, but so far all of the relics have unlocked so much fun stuff for me, like Golden God and even Animal Wrangler. It works so well with my. I haven't even done Hunter Rumors yet, but I've done little bits of Hunter. Everything just makes sense. I'm really happy with my regions. I'm happy with my relics. So no.
Okay, and that I guess then goes on to region choice. What was region number 1 for you?
Desert.
Okay, and I was anticipating on choosing Kandarin first, but you're like, look at Desert. It's actually got, skilling tasks to start off with, which I was like, wow, okay, it does. There's a good amount of tasks and a good amount of points that are available there at the start, at least.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Desert, even looking at it, so for me, Desert was the biggest question mark from the theory crafting, if people remembers that last week, because I was like, if that's really PVM heavy, I'm not taking it. Then I looked over the tasks and I was like, there's so much skilling in there. Like even in the hard and elite categories, there's a good chunk of skilling tasks that all seemed really attainable for me.
Because
so that sort of locked in that region.
Because the combat tasks are really Tombs of a Masket, the KQ, the Echo KQ, and Leviathan.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna try the Leviathan. Let that be clear. I might try Tombs.
Why not?
Leviathan, no. Desert Treasure 2 boss,
Why
one
not?
of the hardest ones, no.
Why not?
No. Oh, too hard. I'm gonna focus on the bosses I think have a chance of actually being good and being killable.
What, even with your power fantasy or not?
We'll see. Maybe if I exhaust all of the other things.
Okay, fair enough. But, yeah, it was interesting because I was anticipating Kandarin being first for myself, but it is indeed Desert, just for the fact of all these skilling tasks that we were mentioning. And right now I'm sitting here with a list where I've done all but 3 of the easy desert tasks, because one of them is missing rune crafting levels and the other one is missing a quest. And then after that, it was just basically taking a walk in the desert, which I never anticipated as being a good thing to do task wise. But there was that loop again, starting with the KQ and then working its way all the way up through the bandit camp, the granite mine, Sophanum, and then into Narda, and then the oasis there for some desert tea. So all in all, I feel like it's been a good experience on desert, and I think the thing that I need to just do to keep myself moving and motivated on this is just find effectively either consider what I'm looking for, whether I'm looking for tasks or points, and then just go based off of that. And I'm still I'm still just sitting here contemplating my choices about Golden God and and the other ones,
Yeah.
and I guess that's okay because I have a few other things to do today, so I won't be on leagues for a while, so I can just let that sit in the back of my
I'm
mind.
still struggling with the mummy one. I killed a mummy with fire spells and it just didn't take fire. Maybe I'm unlucky. Maybe I did it wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Um,
another one I haven't done yet, but
that's an easy desert one.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I'm looking at my easy tasks. I should be able to complete all of them now. The only one I can't do yet, and this is all of the ones in all of my regions, even the global ones. I need to protect the farmer. That should be fine. Pay a farmer. Make an attack potion. That's fine. Right. Clean 25 Guam, 15 Taramin. I don't have the herbs to
right,
clean. That's
right,
my problem right
yeah,
now. I need to get that going at some point, which means I need to start getting seeds. But I'm leaving all of that until I have access to the
overgrown.
farming guild, and I will just do contracts.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way of looking at that. And you know what I just realized? Where I forgot to go to Fossil Island.
Oh, yeah, that's a bunch of good tasks there as well. Some time limited ones because you need to clear 10 birdhouses.
Yeah, that's fine. That'll happen.
But yeah, I'm expecting that in a few days I'll actually have all of the easy tasks I have access to completed, which that was not the same last time. And this really goes to the difference between this time and last time. I feel I'm way less of a noob and I know what I'm doing. I know to focus on points, I know to focus on tasks, and I know how important it is to
Yeah,
get the easy task
yeah,
done because the task count is actually, especially early on, like later on, it doesn't make a big difference, but especially early on, the task count is what unlocks regions, and you want to have access to a lot of content early on because the third region you get, you have so many levels. You kind of don't want to backtrack to all of the
yep,
old training methods and all of the old stuff. So and this is ridiculous. I think last time, we talked about my third region choice a lot, if you remember that. There
yeah.
was a lot
Which
of back
wound
and
up being
forth.
Tyrannon. Yes.
But I think that we had that discussion around Christmas time or
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
about when I chose my third region as well.
And now I'm getting to the point where I'm hoping to get my third region at the end of the first week of leagues. What a difference, right?
Yeah.
What a complete difference compared to last leagues.
Right, and see that's why I'm not too concerned about the combat levels and whatnot at this point because I really
No.
want to zero out that task list. And I actually just counted here right now. There are 19 easy tasks in all of my general, Misselin, Karamja, and desert that I have not done yet. And a good portion of those tasks are limited because I don't yet have, the ability to plant things in allotments or protect
Yep.
crops or steal from
Yep.
stalls and whatnot. So it is. I'm taking a different stance this time, and I don't necessarily know if that was intended. And I imagine a lot of what I did last year in Trailblazer Reloaded was that I went and I was probably training combat up at this time, or I was training
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah.
skills that didn't matter at this point.
Look,
In
I
time.
did do a bunch of combat training, but that was also because I was doing things around the house and just parking myself at sand crabs made sense in the
Yeah,
moment. So,
yeah,
um, I think this, you can always do grinds. It's never exactly wasted time if otherwise you don't play at all. But I agree. I think you need to approach this game very differently because grinds can actually be wasteful if you do them too early, which is a completely different way of thinking with the main game. Where I mean, you can unlock better training methods, but it's more linear in a sense.
yeah. And
So
I guess the more you do this, like the more you do this leagues thing, I guess the better you get at figuring out, where to go because it's
yeah,
you just look at like leaderboards and whatnot and you see that there's people already choosing tier 7 and tier 8 and who have
mm,
had the third region for so long, and are these people playing for 12, 18 hours a day, or are they just that
I
much
mean,
more
I think those,
efficient?
I
Or...
think I think there are those who do. Um, but yeah, no. I think people are more efficient about it. Look, I definitely made mistakes. I definitely could have. I know I didn't have time to play a lot. I definitely think there's time who have more time to play than me, but I do think people are also more efficient than me because I have noticed myself making mistakes. But I don't mind. I mean, I've always said this about why I enjoy playing my Iron Man, why I enjoy the mid game so much. I love the puzzle of trying to get to certain outcomes, right? I want what can I actually do to get there? That is interestingly hard enough as an Iron Man, but then you have region restrictions, and one of the things, for example, that I have come to appreciate, and I didn't realize this, is that the shops in Karm Torum, the dwarf city in Varlamore, amazing. You have a pickaxe shop there that sells a rune pickaxe.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. Given that I don't have a Scania. You have on Aldurin, of all places, you have a shop that sells uncut rubies. That's crafting sorted for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there is an actual stonemason shop in the Stonecutter's Grove.
So you're
It's more
doing
expensive.
right, and so those are things you would normally need like Asgarnia or Fremnik for that you're knocking out with one region and Golden God.
Exactly, but I'm also now thinking on my Iron Man in the main game, I need to get 48 Slayer as soon as possible because I want access to Karmtorum and get all of the amazing shops in the Dwarf City.
Right. Even though they're not. Even though they're not.
There's an amazing jewelry shop, so I can get jewelry that I can enchant, like without having to go after my own gold bars and gems and melt them all into. No, I can just buy jewelry there and enchant it.
Yeah. And
it's this was what I love about leagues. You learn so many new things about the game.
One of the craziest things I did is that, I in my Karamja loop, I sat in Shiloh Village for a bit and I just gem mined, and I'm like, yeah, this is gem mining. And at the same time as I'm mining, I'm also training crafting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That was fun. With that, and it really I guess just goes to show that when you look at the game region by region, store by store, there's a method to the madness, and we don't necessarily see or think of that each and every day. Obviously if we're on a main we do, but overall it's something that is drastically benefiting the efficiency of the league's play style.
Yeah.
So,
mad props to the people for the wiki and getting all of the information on there. I don't think I would enjoy leagues without the absolute fantastic source of knowledge that is there on the wiki and showing all of the region restricted content for all of the shops, all of the quests. It's oh my goodness, the fact that they have all of that information, and I really hope that now that we get it every year, there's going to be a continued investment in keeping that up to date. Wow.
I think
amazing.
The generalist, in terms of that, I think the generalist task list is largely the same. There might have been some changes with it, but overall I feel like I remember a lot of these tasks in these regions, and maybe this is the new blueprint for leagues. It's just, this is the task list, and then year over year we'll add for new content, and maybe things that were a little bit difficult around the edges, those can go goodbye. But overall, that I think is something that the wiki was able to, get going fairly early this year, was just this task list, and filling them in from the game too is good. With the what's the extension called? The one that updates my task progress on the wiki.
Mm-hmm.
With the lookup button. WikiSync. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part, I think, is that I'm able to get my task list and where I'm at in the game by just, looking on the wiki. So where do you plan to go ahead?
That's where I look at my tasks. I don't look at the in-game interface a lot.
No, because the in-game interface isn't as easy to use as this. Dare I say it?
Yeah.
Um, speaking of interfaces, I was trying to figure out just what the heck was wrong with it at the start. I couldn't click anywhere, and then I see that there's just a faint glow behind Karamja, and then I finally figured out that to progress through the onboarding, I actually need to click and unlock Karamja.
Yeah, a lot of people actually struggled with that to the point it was recorded. It was actually reported as a bug.
Oh,
and they had
really?
to say, no. This is intended. Please just unlock Karamja first. I do hope we see some changes in there. I understand that Karamja is unlocked automatically because honestly, it doesn't have that much to offer, right?
No,
If you
not
think
really.
about it by itself. But I do hope that maybe with another concept like Echo Bosses, and also another important thing about Karamja is I think it adds a lot of content that Misthalin is missing to the point where all of the skills are kind of present on all of the on the starting area. So I understand why they unlock Karamja, but boy would I love for that to be turned into a free choice and Karamja being changed to be a little bit more self-sufficient, maybe with like an Echo Boss like piece of content, because having
Yeah.
to, which I mean, the unfortunate thing is I think very few people would choose it because everybody
Yeah.
is so tired of
Yeah.
Karamja at this point.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a completely different starting area to begin with.
Because I mean, like consider you get Mistlin to start off with, and then what is Garnia instead? I mean, that would be
Pandarin. I think Pandarin would be a really good starting area as well.
Yeah, or they do, which one was the league that started off in
Zaya.
in Zaya? Was that
Shattered,
Twisted?
Twisted was only Zaya. Like it was entirely limited
Okay.
to Zaya, I think.
Imagine the two starting areas were Corrin and Varlamore. You'd never have to leave if that was the case.
Yeah.
That makes things maybe a bit too easy, but that pretty
overall
much.
it's pretty well balanced. I think the starting area has like a little bit of everything, but it has very few things that are completely OP, right? It has very few things that are completely the one and only way to do a certain skill.
Yeah, that's fair.
You can't, and so you can't really handicap yourself too much by your region choice. The only thing you could really do is not get yourself any allotment patches with farming, but like even then.
Which one would that be? That would be
wilderness, desert,
wilderness,
and
desert,
Fremenic. Yeah,
but I don't know why you would pick that combo.
Because you hate farming so much.
Yeah.
That you're gonna sabotage yourself doing any farming. I mean, even then, I haven't really done any farming or much, and I'm 19 farming, which is enough to do some things that are not allotments and.
My farming XP came from the sorceress's garden and picking the fruits.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's not really any region choice where you can completely lock yourself out of.
Yeah,
an entire skill
I think I see what my problem was last league. By the way, I chose Asgarnia as my first region, and just looking at the task list here.
Yep.
And at the time, I was like, yeah, there's a nice connection. You can just go right between the two. There's farming patches. There's smithing. Yep. There's a gem shop. It'll be fine. But it's one of the big PvM regions.
I looked at I looked at the task list and I was like, there's nothing in here that appeals to me.
Yeah.
It's like it was all God Wars Dungeon, and I just no.
I want to get the stats. I want to get the stats of what people chose. When they put those out, I want the stats of the regions. I want the stats of the relics. I want the stats of the masteries.
They released some of them in official channels. I need to remember these from memory, but for mastery, 60% went ranged, 30% went melee, 10% went magic.
Oh shit!
And for the and for the tier 1 relics, I think the distribution is more about like it's in a similar vein. I think it's like 60% animal wrangler, 30% production, mining, power mining, and 10% lumberjack, something along those lines.
That honestly makes sense in terms of what you do with and how you can fletch stuff later on with the production relic, and you don't necessarily need help burning that, so that makes sense why people didn't choose the Echo Axe. And I see why people chose primarily the animal wrangler one for food and hunters, so that makes sense. But any final thoughts before we depart? Where do you plan to be in the next week? You mentioned third region. That seems like a good ballpark.
I'm glad to be in current. Quite literally, yeah. Plan to be in current, get all my regions out of the way. I'm hoping to get at least my Banker's Note. Banker's Note is currently my main bottleneck.
You're going for that over recall. Interesting.
Yeah, I absolutely am. The reason is, it's going to make all of my hunter rumors great because I can just note all of the loot.
Right.
And sure, I could teleport to a bank things, and then total recall back, but why go to the extra clicks? I don't know. Same with construction. I really just want to do the construction training by taking a noted stack of materials and then just going through it. And because I have infinite money, I can basically train using marble bricks and limestone bricks and magic stones and do the stuff that you can't do in the main game and just boost my way to 99 construction. And specifically, I want to get 75 prayer construction, so I get the Gilded Altar.
Yeah.
And then I will actually knock out prayer quickly, probably. So.
Yeah, but I mean, with the amount of money you have, you could just do it whenever.
I could just do it whatever, but if I can make it last like a third as long, why not? Save myself the time so I can spend it on other grinds. That's sort of my plan for now. And continue to having a good time. Also go after that 5th mastery. The moment I have melee 5, it is straight to Perilous Moons. And get myself a full Blood Moon outfit. Which is going to be great.
Yeah, and then Jad.
And then Jad. Yeah, well, at that point, I'm probably going to try and get Nature Reprisals first from Hespori, the Echo Hespori.
Right.
So that I can do Jad with melee, but from a distance.
Sounds like a plan. As for me, I plan to get into Kandarin by the end of the day, and then agonize a bit more over the Golden God choice. And hopefully by the time we get here next week, I'll be nipping on the buds of Region 3, because I think that's how I'm playing Leagues this time, is I'm going based on task count until I get all the regions unlocked, which I think is the smart play.
Yeah. Because then you have the content, and then you can start focusing on the tasks when you have all of the information and choices laid out for you.
Yeah. Well, as they say, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Let us know, folks, what you think. Let us know what you want to hear from future Leagues episodes, too, as we head into December. That would be greatly appreciated. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on Discord, which is update.show/Discord, or the Friends chatting game at BitsBytes. And, if you're listening on YouTube, you can subscribe by just going to youtube.com/@OSRSupdate. Hit the like and subscribe. I know everybody says it means the world to us, but it really does. And, of course, we are also on the traditional podcast listening services, too. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and more. Visit update.show/OS to get all those. But anything else before we depart here this week? Alrighty then, well, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the Old School RuneScape Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Bye.